What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of the WCW Nitro Podcast. I'm your host. I'm Notorious One. I am Dom, and I'm here, my man, all the way from Delaware. I am here with BDC. BDC, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
I'm alright. I'm good. How's everything with you, man?
Good, man. We had some snow the other day, so that's why the show's a little bit delayed, but it doesn't matter because wrestling is always going to be here, and we're going to still bring content whenever we can. So
Exactly right.
that's it. Let's get right into it. We are in the first episode of October of 1995. October 2nd, 1995, episode 5. And this time we're in Denver, Colorado. And I finally be able to realize that we got a location because the last few weeks they didn't tell us where we were at.
Yeah, they announced it. They announced it right at the beginning of the show. They didn't exactly tell you where they were at. They were at the Denver Coliseum. They just said that they were in Denver. They didn't tell you exactly where, but hell, I'll take it. They hadn't been telling us where the hell they've been for weeks. So the fact that they at least gave us a city is a win.
Yes.
But yeah, I think they get better with it over time, but they really were not good at announcing where exactly they were ever. In these first, after week 2, they really started having problems remembering where exactly they were, or at least telling people where they were.
Facts.
But yeah, this week they got it out right away that they were in Denver. As I said, didn't tell us where in Denver, but just let us know that they were in Denver.
Yes. And in my house city. So, all right. So we got Eric Bischoff, Bobby the Brain Heenan, and Steve Manga McMichael on commentary with Pepe again. And Pepe got the eyes bugging out.
Yeah.
The little glasses. Poor dog.
Bugging out, you're bugging out. Yep.
Terrible. So while Eric Bischoff is making the announcements, we see the Nature Boy Ric Flair. He crashes the announce booth and he says, "Double A, we're going to the Mile High," and he's hyped and he's ready for their fight later on tonight.
Yep. Yeah, he came out there and he was on 100 right from the gate.
Yes.
This was the wild-eyed Nature Boy that you got every now and then when he was on a mission and didn't matter who or didn't matter what, he was on a mission, and you get this wild-eyed version of him that just didn't really give any fucks. And he walked over, he didn't say hi to nobody, he just literally ripped the headset off of Eric, put it on, said what he had to say, and threw it back at him and walked off.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. That's how you kick off the show.
There was nothing else. He said what he had to say and gone.
Yep. All right, well, after this, we get a video package of Lex Luger and Macho Man Randy Savage. They're having their fight for later on tonight. They show Savage taking out the Dungeon of Doom, and then the Giant comes out, and he slams Luger. And actually, no, he slams Savage, and then Luger comes out, and Luger standing over Macho Man. Kevin Sullivan is laughing, and the Giant choke slams him, and then Luger and the Giant, they start going at it. This is what happened last week. We covered it. Well, we're going to kick off the show with our opening match. It's Lex Luger and Macho Man Randy Savage. And if Luger loses, he loses his title shot. It's funny that they say that because last week when we discussed the show, or discussed this match, they said if Luger loses his match, he's leaving WCW. So you see how they change things up right quick?
Well, they did mention it in passing that he would leave, but it was really quick and you might have missed it. But one thing to note, that this match was billed as the first of 2 main events for the evening. So essentially they put a main event at the start, a main event at the evening, at the end of the show, and then a match in between, which was probably the best match of the 3, but we're not going to go there. But yeah, it was Lex Luger versus Macho Man. It was if Lex Luger loses, he loses his number one contendership for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, and he also leaves WCW. Now, anybody with half a brain at that point in time knew he just got back. They were not about to send him off, so you knew he was going to win somehow. And when you came to the match, it almost felt like they may have told him in the back, hey, there's only 3 matches. we need this match to go a while. We need it to last a little bit. Because I swear, at the onset, the initial lockup it felt like it lasted about 3 to 4 minutes. They were locked up in the ring. They were not throwing punches. They were just in arm and collar tie up. It went on so long. They both rolled out the ring and they still held the lockup. And I'm like, okay, like, all right, I get it. They're testing something. I don't know what, but
they were definitely dragging.
They literally rolled out of the ring and still held onto that lockup through the commercial. And then when you come back from the commercial, it finally was broken.
Well, you know who the referee in this match was, trying to break them up, trying to get them in the ring.
Yeah, I think we kind of know who the referee of this match was. That guy that seems to be involved every single week. And I think by now, it's pretty noticeable that Randy Anderson has been the main event referee. That dude, every main event he's been a part of. And, yeah, I mean, at this state, I think he hadn't done anything crazy yet, but he does do something interesting during the match.
Yes, well, like you said, they were wrestling. Well, they were locked up outside the ring. When they finally got back from commercial break, these guys tried to, out wrestle one another. And let's get right to it.
Yeah.
Them guys are trying to throw each other to the ropes, and they just countered, and Randy Anderson happened to be in the way, and then Anderson get knocked out.
Yep. And I have to give some kudos, because at earlier part in the match, there was a pinning combination that Lex had. He literally, him and Macho were kind of countering each other, and Macho was about to get him in a pinning combination. He had him hooked over and was trying to bring him down, and Lex Luger had the wherewithal to hook his foot under the rope.
That was unique
to stop to stop him from pushing down. Which I was like, look at the high IQ move. Okay, I give you that.
That was very unique.
And then it kind of went into a shit show after that. It was great though. But yeah, it was a great move. It just kind of popped up out of nowhere, and for that moment I was like, okay, this might actually be a really good technical match. I mean, we're seeing some pretty high IQ stuff, and then Randy Anderson gets flattened. Randy Anderson's grabbing people, and Randy Anderson's doing his thing. He gets knocked out, and yep, like I said, then all hell just kind of
all hell breaks loose. So we see the Giant. He comes out while Randy Anderson's knocked out. Yep. Giant comes down. He chokeslams Savage, and then Lex Luger, he's dazed and confused, and he pins Savage. Actually, no, he gets him the torture rack.
He hits the torture rack.
The torture rack. Yep. And he gets the win. Savage is knocked out.
Yeah, Savage was done. Like he was done.
It's like when Jake DDT'd him and he was out.
He sold the choke slam. He sold that choke slam so swell that he was put in the torture rack and did not move.
Yep.
Didn't move.
Yep.
Literally was just there. He grabbed the arm, was like, eh.
One, two, three.
It was over.
Out. Lex Luger is your winner. There you go. See what happens next week with this guy. All right, so after this, we see the Disco Inferno comes out, and he's trying to hype himself up. He's out there dancing. Bobby the Brain Heenan, he's out there dancing. And then Eddie Guerrero, this is Eddie's debut on WCW Nitro, and he comes out yelling at Disco, "It's my time. Get out of here. I'm about to go wrestle right now." So we see Eddie Guerrero getting ready to take on Dean Malenko, who's making his debut in WCW Nitro as well. And this match right here, for to be the second match of the night, they damn sure wowed the people in the crowd and on TV, because it was very impressive seeing all these guys, and they were just countering every move. The sunset flip into the hands, land on their feet and whatnot. Oh man, this was a good ass match right here.
It easily the match of the night.
It is.
easily the match.
It definitely is.
You know, and I think in the era now where you have so many luchadors out there, you have luchador matches that you could see, and you know, you have the Rey Mysterios now. We have Penta in the E, but when he was in AEW, you had him and Rey Fenix, and you had all of these luchadors who you see every week. You kind of forget, you know, that really the guys that brought the Lucha Libre and the high-flying style of technical wrestling, you forget that it was the Chris Benoit's, the Dean Malenkos, the Eddie Guerreros, Rey Mysterio, even Conan, and you forget that these guys were the guys that were really putting it out there in the 90s when it wasn't really a type of wrestling that everyone was on board with. They really had to fight hard to make it acceptable to the masses. I mean, you can go overseas and to Mexico and stuff like that, and they loved it. But U.S. wasn't about that yet, and it was these guys that came in here and put on these clinics that made people really appreciate that style of wrestling. To now you have like Grand Metalik, you have Santos Escobar, who was El Hijo del Fantasma for a while. And you have these guys now that are doing these things that people are wowed by them. But like I said, Dean Malenko, it was Eddie Guerrero, it was Rey Mysterio back then, it was La Parka back then, Juventud Guerrera and Psychosis. These guys were really the guys that were putting it on the map for us so that we could enjoy it later. And to see these two go is always it's always an amazing match to see Eddie and Dean go when they did it in the 90s. One thing I did point out though is that Dean Malenko was wearing the NWO Outsider gear before the Outsiders were. The
Iceman.
As soon as I saw his gear, I was like, oh, I see where Scott Hall ripped that off from. But yeah, it's an absolute thrill to see those guys wrestle. And they are truly the fight forever guys, because you could just literally watch them fight forever. Mm-hmm. But like I said, it was a match of the night.
Yeah, but one thing about this match, while this match was taking place, we see a limo pulls up and is Hulk Hogan, and Jimmy Hart comes running to the back. Hogan, Macho Man, he got taken out. Hulk Hogan said, we got to stop him. We got to stop that big stinky giant. And he's going to do it for all for the little hosters. Like, come on, man. You're going to do this during a good-ass match like this? Like, come on, man. They just cut away from the match and just went right backstage to show Hogan, and the match is still taking on from this place right here.
Right. It was like, okay, you could have done that between matches. You could have done that between the Macho Man and Eddie Guerrero match. You could have done it between the two. You didn't really have to cut away to something you knew when Hogan got there, you knew it was going to be Hogan was going to go after the Giant. You didn't really need the extra build up. We knew it was coming. Yeah. So, it in a match that good, it felt really weird. It felt really weird to just kind of throw that in there. Oh, by the way.
Well, with this match, like I said, this is the first time seeing this match on Nitro, this type of match on Nitro, so they're just trying it out just to, get a feel for it. But obviously they've seen how the fans are reacting to it, so you see how, it picked up later on. Yeah. As Nitro
Cruiserweights and the Lucha Libre style, that it has always been something special, and at this point, they're just mainstream wrestling is starting to get an idea of what it's all about. Because they really didn't at the time.
Yeah. Well, the finish of the match, Eddie Guerrero wins with a counter roll-up, and Malenko, he gets, he's a little aggravated. He said that Eddie got lucky. He wants one more match. Eddie said anytime, any place, and they handshake. That's how you do it. Show a little sign of respect right there. So, you're going to get more out of these two men. And, it's definitely going to be a good time.
And I thought it interesting that they called, when they did the flashback to Eddie Guerrero's match versus Jushin Thunder Liger, that they called his frog splash the jackknife.
Yeah. Yep.
I was like, oh, yeah. Okay. Jackknife.
All right. Well, after this, we get Mean Gene Okerlund in the ring. He's interviewing Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan had Jimmy Hart in his corner. And then Hogan said, he was hanging out with a little tiny Hulkamaniac, and that he's going to rip the Giant apart just like he ripped off his shirt. And long story short, after he cut that promo, Hogan dapping up all the fans like he usually do. And then this little old lady threw some powder in his face and started attacking him with the cane. Then the lady hopped over the top rope and started beating him with the cane. And then come to find out that lady was the Taskmaster. And the Dungeon of Doom comes out. The Giant rips that damn neck brace off again. And then he does he just snaps the neck one more time. Then after that, Kevin Sullivan, the Taskmaster, he shaved the golden mustache.
Listen.
He shaved it off clean.
Dude, you have a mustache and beard, I have a mustache and beard. Most guys, at some point, have facial hair, or at least hair on their head. And, a lot of people pay for barbers to do these things, but, people like me, I'm not about to pay a barber $40-$50 to do something that I could do myself. So, I could do it myself. So one of the first things I noticed immediately was like, has Kevin Sullivan never shaved a dude a day in his fucking life?
He was struggling.
Like, he was struggling hard. Like, I'm like, what is he trying to do here?
Are you trying to give him Hitler?
I'm sitting there. I'm suffering secondhand embarrassment from this. I'm like, what is like, dude, you have facial hair. What is happening right now? He's sitting there. He's shaving him sideways.
Yep, side by side.
Like he's holding it. He's holding it like he's just like, dude, you're not drawing. You're shaving. Come on. Like somewhere along the line, somebody should have said, look, if you want to make this look, you want to get this done quickly, or get this done relatively quickly, you do this, you do this, you do this. Or you can do this, do this, do this. No, what did he do? He was like, and it wasn't going nowhere. I'm like, oh God, we're gonna be here for like the next 20 minutes.
Oh man, while all this is taking place, you got the American Males IDM podcast. They guests Scotty Riggs and Buff Bagwell, Marcus Bagwell. Yep. They try to help Hogan, and the Giant takes them out. Then we see Brian Knobbs and Jerry Sags, the Nasty Boys, trying to help my man out. That didn't happen either. They get taken out. And then while all this is happening, the Zodiac is holding a pair of scissors. I'm like, maybe he's gonna bring out a inner gimmick. He just looked at him stupid, and that's it.
They like cut a sliver of his hair in the back. Well, my thing was this, because again, and they tried to slide this in, so they called out the American Males. They were talking about the American Males coming out there to help, and then the Nasty Boys was coming out there to help. And they all got flattened, and then they was like, oh yeah, well they were supposed to fight tonight. Well, they're not now. I'm like, okay, well there's the fourth match. Yeah. There's the fourth match. Just got flattened by the Giant, so there's that.
Hogan went in for work for himself, brother.
Yeah, you came out here to help and lost your whole match for the night. So great, thank you very much.
Everyone is laid out in the ring.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
This shit is so bad. They had the trainer come out checking out Hogan.
Yeah.
Did you peep that the trainer had a big ass hole in his shirt? Did you see that?
Oh, I might have to go back and see that.
I'm like, wait a minute.
I might have to go back and see that.
Big ass hole.
I didn't see that.
Oh my God. It's the little things. The little things. Typical Hogan.
So the trainer was at catering, huh?
Seriously.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh man.
It's awful. That was absolutely awful.
Our main events, we have the Nature Boy Ric Flair taking on Double A, Arn Anderson. And like Flair said, he's going to bring it to Arn Anderson. And the match kicks off. Flair, he was whooping Arn's ass in the beginning. Hell yeah. He was throwing them working punches. He was chopping.
Arn Anderson.
Everything he said he was going to do, he definitely did it.
Yep, sure did. He, like, they had a decent match. It may have been match of the night had not been for that Eddie Guerrero Di Malenko match.
Yeah.
Then again, there's low hanging fruit if you were talking about a Lex Luger match anyway, but that goes without saying. But yeah, he went in there and he was every bit the wild card that he was acting as in the beginning of the match. He was taking it to Double A in a way that you don't regularly see Double A getting it taken to him. Like you'll see him wrestle, you might see him getting beat a little bit, but no, he was literally taking it to him. And I mean, for the amount of the match that he was getting that offense in, that offense was looking legit.
Seriously.
Ultimately, as with all things that had to do with them these days, he ended up with help.
Yep, well, Flair had Arn Anderson in the figure 4. And next you know, you see referee Nick Patrick going like this. Flying Brian comes out, and he's on the top rope. And the referee rings the bell. Yeah. Now, there's a little controversy. I think Arn tapped out before Flying Brian hit the splash on Flair.
I think he did too.
I
think he did too, and I think he tapped. I think Brian Pillman's assault happened as a result of Double A tapping. Like once Double A tapped and the match was over, that's when Brian Pillman went into attack mode. No matter what this, because I don't remember if they just said that he won the match, but I think it was him tapping that caused Brian Pillman to just jump off the top rope and start attacking, because at that point the match was over. It was over at that point.
Yeah. So the finish of the match, Flair won with the figure 4. Brian Pillman hit him with the splash off the top rope, and then they start double teaming Ric Flair. Then Brian Pillman with the woo, that raspy woo.
Raspy woo, yeah.
Throwing up the 4 is like, all right, now I'm excited to see how did this formation happen with the 4 Horsemen again, with Brian Pillman and Flair. I can't wait to see. I know it's going to happen in the next few weeks or so, hopefully.
Yeah, it shall happen soon. So, I mean, unfortunately, with only 3 matches, that's the show.
That's all, folks.
That's all, folks. So, what I will do in the meantime is I will call out the dark matches that they had that didn't make air because of the double main event and Eddie and Dean. So, the first dark match saw Brian Pillman defeating Disco Inferno.
Okay.
The next match was actually a tag team match. It was a dark tag between the Dungeon of Doom of Ming and the Shark. Mm-hmm. And they defeated Jim Duggan and the Renegade.
That would have been interesting on TV.
Yeah, it would have been. And then the last match, which we talked about this last week, Diamond Dallas Page defeated Alex Wright, and it was a dark match for the WCW World Television title. So again, we asked the question, why are we having matches for the television title on dark matches and not actually on TV?
Yeah.
And I mean, at this point, it is kind of annoying, And I think they got it later where they just started putting, like, every time the TV title was defended, they put it on TV. But for some reason in the early going, they're just not doing it. They just weren't doing it. They weren't putting that match. They would defend the title, but they wouldn't put it on.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it made no sense. Now, they might have been doing that so that they could air it on WCW Saturday Night.
Yeah.
Not really sure. I don't really remember that far back. But I just think that if you're going to have a television title, you should probably be defending it on TV.
Well, I can't wait to see when they finally get to an hour. Or 2 hours, excuse me.
Yeah.
It's going to be
Because once they get to 2 hours, a lot of this stuff will show up. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, episode 6, I think, has...
I got the card. I'll run the card down right quick.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think episode 6 might have a world television title match on it.
No, it don't. That's for the dark match. I'll go. I'll go through the card right now.
Oh, yeah, it is. It is.
All right. Lord. So the card for next week, episode 6, we have Sting defending his WCW United States Championship against the Shark.
Yep.
We have Sabu going against another guy making his WCW debut, Mr. JL.
Jerry Lynn.
We have Big Bubba Rogers taking on Road Warrior Hawk.
Yep.
And in your main event, in a steel cage match, we have a rematch between Arn Anderson and the Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
Now,
I remember at this time, I'm like, why the hell Animal's not with Hawk? Like, Hawk was just there in WCW by himself. Like, I did not know as a kid.
Yeah, I don't remember why they were separated.
I think Animal was either hurt or he had that Lloyd of London thing we was talking about the other day. Yeah, something like that. Like, because I remember at one point, like, Hawk was teaming with Sting. Like, what?
Yeah, he was randomly teaming up with folk because Animal wasn't around.
Like, where the hell was Animal in 1995?
Yeah.
I'm curious.
But, yeah, so we get a title defense. Wasn't a TV title, though. It was Sting at the time was the United States champion. And that was the title that was defended. Because once again, Diamond Dallas Page was the dark match. Who once again defended his title against Alex Wright. Because apparently they didn't get it right the first week, so they wanted to try it again. Same result. I think looking at the times on these matches, they really did not know how to maximize an hour effectively. Because if you add these matches up, you have 2 matches that are under 5 minutes. You have 2 matches that are under 2 minutes. And that's the show. So, you know, that is literally 25% of the show is actual wrestling.
It's going to be a lot of promos.
And a lot of promos.
It's going to be a lot of promos.
A lot of promos.
Well, I know you usually ask me every week what's the best moment of the night. We agree.
The moment of the night.
Eddie and Dean.
Yep, and for the first time since I came up with this, it was not the end. The Dean Eddie match was a beauty to behold.
That's right.
That was very much my moment of the night. Was that entire match. Like I said, it was such a great setup for things to come. And it was crazy because that was kind of niche to WCW at the time because WWE didn't have luchador style wrestlers at that time. They didn't have, if they had them, they were very few and far between. WCW literally came up with a core of them. And that was just something, because I mean, literally, you think about it. The luchador and cruiserweight wrestlers that really started the WWE's cruiserweight division, in all honesty, were the Radicals, who were Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn, and I can't remember the fourth one. I cannot remember the fourth one.
Perry Saturn, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, and Eddie Guerrero.
And Eddie Guerrero. Okay, so there you go. There's your 4. All coming from WCW. So they got the ball rolling in WCW and then went off to WCW, the WWE, and did it there too.
Yep.
So I mean,
that's what WCW had to offer at that time, and
yep.
95. And since you're gonna ask me every week, what was the moment of the show?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna start something new. I'm gonna tell you what was on the other channel. I'm Monday Night Raw. I'm gonna tell you right now.
Okay, Eric.
I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm not gonna spoil it for you. You guys can go check it out yourself. But
all right, Eric.
We're gonna, just from the card, we're gonna we already know what happened in WCW, and I'll tell you the WWF Raw card, and tell me you think it's like a must-watch episode. All right, so they have Camp Cornette, Owen Hart, Yokozuna, and the British Bulldog with Jim Cornette and Mr. Fuji. And they're taking on Diesel, Shawn Michaels, and The Undertaker with Paul Bearer. This is 1995.
Okay. So at that point, Undertaker is in his purple phase at this point.
Yep. That match got me interested to see already. Owen, Yoko, and Bulldog versus Diesel, Shawn, and Undertaker. That match right there. Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
And your main event.
And that wasn't even the main event. Okay.
No. Your main event. They only had 2 matches.
They
was only an hour as well. Oh, man. And your main event, you have Fatu, which is Rikishi, taking on Skip, Chris Candido.
Are you? Wait. Hold on. So you mean to tell me you have a 6-man tag? You have Yokozuna, you have Owen Hart, you have British Bulldog, you have Undertaker, you have Shawn Michaels, you have Diesel, and the main event is Rikishi versus Skip?
Yep.
Wow. Oh my God.
The only thing I could say why they had that match kick off the show is just so they could have enough time. That's the only thing I could think of.
Like, first off, why isn't that the main event? You could have literally dedicated, it's 6 guys. You could have literally dedicated an easy half to that. Easy half to that.
Yep.
Rikishi, and again, and I say Rikishi, but at that point he wasn't Rikishi. He was just Fatu.
Fatu was like a hip hop Samoan.
Yeah, and then Skip.
R.I.P. Skip. Yep.
Rest in peace, Chris Candido, but still Skip.
And that was it. So we know what happened on Nitro. What show would you want to watch? Would you want to watch the Nitro show or the Raw show?
I would have found out where that 6-man tag would have been, and I would have watched that till it was over, and then came back to see what was left. Because that 6-man is worth it, but the Dean and Eddie match is worth it too. So in a perfect world, they're not happening at the same time, so you can catch them both.
Yeah.
And I'll be damned about the rest of it. So like, if the 6-man tag match is first, then cool. You can get that in there, and hopefully by the time it's done, Eddie and Dean are just getting started, so you can watch that and then go to sleep.
So you would skip Luger and Savage?
Hell yeah! You knew how that was gonna end. You knew it was gonna end with Luger winning. It was just a matter of if it was gonna be clean or disputed, and it ended up being disputed.
Yep.
You kind of had to know it wasn't gonna be clean because it's Savage. They were never going to give Savage a clean L to Lex Luger. It was just not going to happen.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right on that one. Well, BDC, that's about it. Short episodes, short show for us.
Yeah, I think what I may try to do, I think definitely keeping tabs on the dark matches is gonna help, kind of, because a lot of these episodes are gonna be short until they get into 2 hours. To kind of get the dark matches in, and a good idea to see to have your Eric Bischoff moment of telling us what's happening on the other show. But yeah, I think that'll work. I think that'll work. And then once we go into 2 hours, 2 hours is 2 hours.
Yeah.
So
we'll definitely stretch it out for sure.
Yep.
But I tell you what, next week's Raw show is pretty interesting. I'm looking at the card, but I'll tell you next week. Don't look it up.
I will not look it up. I that is my promise to you. I will not look it up. I will not check anything. I will end this. I will end what I have to say by saying, if you don't know how to shave someone's mustache, especially not your own, my suggestion is never pick up clippers. Just don't.
That's right.
Because again, that was brutal to watch. Second and third hand embarrassment.
Facts.
Like, you could have literally cut his lip off. Yeah, it was that bad.
This is true. All right. Well, thank you, BDC. Until next week, I'm Notorious One. I am Dom. I'm here, my man BDC, and we will see you next week. Boom.